We are back at it live from the Salem 5 studio here at Boston is End of the Chat. And as promised and corrected, Justin Turpin joins the show from WEEI. I wanted to call you Turner. I wanted to call you everything else. And there's no way I should be disrespecting you, Justin, because I've heard all the best things. And I'm here to learn from you about the Celtics. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
We're so excited. And we love even more when people come and grace the table in studio for Boston has entered the chat. So, of course, we're talking Celtics. An 8-7 team, slightly above 500.
For the first time all year.
Well, we got to stick with the positives, Kaufman.
Yeah, I'm positive
It's Friday.
that they're a winning team now.
Stick a pin in you. What have we made about the Celtics season so far?
I think it's gone about as what you'd expect. And going into the year, I think if you were looking at this team through 15 games, you would sign up for an 8-7 record anytime. Like, especially with the season that the schedule they opened up with. Last time we were sitting here, Travis was talking about a potential 0-7 start. Like,
Travis
it was a
dramatic.
tough schedule. It was a tough schedule.
Travis also really wants the ping pong balls.
Yes, he
Travis is,
He's been Team Tank, right?
Yeah, all
Okay.
the AJ DeBonza talk that's what Travis is all about. Some of us, though, do live in a world where I understand the fear of NBA purgatory and, not being good enough to win a championship, but being too good to get a great draft pick. What I would say, though, and I'm sure you agree with this, is that there's just so much uncertainty and unpredictability in it. Like, this is a little bit of an outlier, but the Dallas Mavericks last year were a play-in tournament team, obviously didn't advance to the playoffs, so they wind up in the lottery, and they get the number 1 overall pick with a less than 2% chance, but they get it, and land Cooper Flagg. And so I just think it's way too early in the year to worry about what's going to happen come the spring and beyond.
Yeah, no doubt. Especially, I feel like teams that have actually given it a try have been rewarded. Like, very rarely do you see the teams that went all out for a tank get rewarded with the number 1 pick. It just doesn't really happen in the NBA. And especially with this group, like, the core of them is just so prideful. The Peyton Pritchards, the Derek Whites, the Jaylen Browns, the Joe Mazzullans. Like, those guys aren't going to embrace a tank. That's just not the reality for this team. And if they were, you're not going to out-tank the teams at the bottom. The Pacers, the Wizards, like the Brooklyn Nets, like, those teams are just going all in. You're not going to out-tank them. And, this team's just not going to do that. So if it happens, it happens. And the reality is they could be an injury away from it. But for now, they're going to keep competing.
I think it's so great that you pointed out the pride that's on the line, because when you think about it, like, yes, Jason Tatum is the face, but there's so much other leadership responsibility that lays in the shoulders of some other guys. So it would almost feel insulting to be like, hey, if we don't have this one guy, we are incapable. Which brings us to, have you seen any other guys potentially step up? Like, Jaylen Brown was the biggest name to be like, give him the time, give him the ability to show that he's even more of a leader. Are we starting to see that kind of phase in?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, if you look up and down the lineup, or up and down the roster, rather, like, you have to be pretty pleased with what you've gotten. Nemish Queta's up there. I mean, he's been one of the most impactful bigs in the league, and that's not even hyperbolic to say. If you look at his net rating, it's second behind only Chet Holmgren. Like, he has been that dominant, and part of that could be because of what's behind him and the inconsistency that's been behind him in the big rotation, but he's been great. I mean, you've had flashes from Jordan Walsh and Josh Minott, and you want to kind of see that, right? Like, what do you have on this roster and who can contribute to the next iteration of a championship team? And you're looking up and down and it's like, okay, some of these guys could possibly do it. And I think Queta's one, Minott and Walsh, we'll see what happens there, but one of those guys seems like they can as well. And you have to be pleased with what you've seen from Derek White and Peyton Pritchard as well. Those guys have stepped up and really kind of answered the call. So all in all, you have to be pretty pleased with what you've got, just given the expectations. Like, right, you have to look at it for what this was. And everyone knew it was kind of a gap year. They're going to be middle of the road, right around 500, hopefully a little bit better. I think that was the hope for a lot of people. So you have to be pretty pleased with what you've gotten so far.
I just think all things Jaylen Brown is really fascinating, and has been for a long time, because we've often compared he and Jason Tatum, not only on the floor and all those debates prior to winning a championship, can they coexist, can they play together, all that nonsense that existed at the time, and I hated it at the time and I still do. Just the personalities, like Tatum, obviously, multiple kids at home, he's hanging out with celebrities, Jay-Z is at the Michael Rubin White party. It's all about the sneakers. He's very
you
like
follow
that's
his Instagram?
Well, I mean there's a very public side to Jason Tatum.
Yeah.
There's a private side obviously as well, but there's a very public, sort of larger than life side. Absolutely. But Jaylen Brown, and I'm far from the only person to have said this, but I've been saying for years, what this guy is going to accomplish off the basketball court is going to, outweigh in the long term what he does on the court. Like, you think back to Bill Bradley becoming a senator kind of thing. You know, Brown is out there at MIT, at Harvard, adjunct professor. He's doing all of these things. Bill Nye, science experiments, bettering his community, activism. Again, just two different personalities. But now this year, and I don't think it's coincidental that it's aligning with his, you know, star of the show, number one option leadership year. And now he's got a Twitch stream. And he's doing a lot more with his brand in terms of the clothing, the apparel, the sneakers, just a lot more front facing. What's the motivation here, do you think? Because we're still seeing great play on the floor, independent of that, brief benching the other night against Brooklyn. Mm-hmm. He's owning all of this right now, but we're still kind of waiting for him to show
more.
Are you a number one option possibility on a good team, mediocre team, average team, or a great team? And a lot of that has to do with pieces around you, but I think he's still trying to answer some critics.
Yeah, I think so. And I think, like you said, a lot of it has to do with the pieces around him. And he is one of 7 players in the league, averaging 27, 5, and 4, with the likes of Jokic and SGA and Cade Cunningham. Like, he's in an elite class in that sense. And yeah, you'd like to see the turnovers go down. Like, that's been an issue. Obviously, it was the other night in Brooklyn. You can't have 8 turnovers and obviously not only playing 10 minutes in the first half because of the turnovers. And I have my questions on whether or not that was a benching. He played 30 minutes or 32 minutes in the game anyway. So yeah, that could very well have been another way of just kind of testing out the sub patterns, which Joe Mazzulla made clear at practice yesterday. They don't have sub patterns. Yeah. They're still trying to figure it out. So that could have been another way of doing that rather than a benching, like Jaylen kind of made it implied that it was, because he played 32 minutes. Like, he played almost the whole second half. So I don't necessarily think it was that. But all in all, I think you're getting an all-NBA season from Jaylen Brown right now. And I know the critics are going to look at it and they'll be like, okay, well, they're only a game over 500. Like, how are you an all-NBA player if your team's not really succeeding? You're like the 10 seed in the East right now, but they're 2 games away from being the number 2. Like, that's just how compact the East is. So all in all, you have to be pretty pleased with what you've gotten from Jaylen on and off the floor. Like, what they're doing right now with this team is very unconventional. Guys that have one bad game are seeing coming out of the starting lineup. Mm-hmm. Like, you might see that with Jordan Walsh tonight. Like, it was great the last 3 games, struggled against Brooklyn. Does he start tonight, or do they go back to Hauser? Do they go to Shireman? Like, it's unconventional. And I think Joe Mazzulla deserves a lot of credit for the buy-in with that, but it also Jaylen Brown and Derek White and Peyton Pritchard, the guys at the top, also deserve a lot of credit for that as well. So on and off the court, I think you have to be really pleased with what you've gotten from Jaylen this year.
I love that you mentioned, like, was it even really a benching? Because, of course, we know social media can just amplify the loudest piece of an entire sentence. So all you're seeing is bench, 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 bench. And, of course, Jaylen Brown, stepping into a bigger leadership role, takes responsibility and says, I was playing like crap. But do you feel like this was a message beyond Brown?
Yeah, it certainly could have. Mm-hmm. And that message could be that everyone's held to this high standard, no matter who you are. Like, obviously, it's a lot different than when he pulls Jordan Walsh in the first half compared to Jaylen Brown. That's like, that sends a message. But again, like, that very well could have just been tinkering with, what works best. Like, how can we get Jaylen the most fresh for the fourth quarter? Like, they've struggled in the clutch this year. And partially because maybe those guys don't have the legs that they usually do, because they're picking up full court. They're guarding 94 feet. They're running out faster. And I know the pace stats don't really adjust, that it doesn't clock out that they're really much running, but like, the pace goes both ways. So that's the issue with it. Like, the Celtics pace is going to be down when they're playing teams like Orlando and the Clippers. Like, it's 2 teams that factor into the pace. So the Celtics themselves are running more. They're playing quicker. And partially, maybe the clutch stuff is because they're running out of gas at the end, and maybe they were tinkering with that. Because that game on Tuesday night was looking to be like down to the wire, just like all the games were against Brooklyn last year. So
yeah, pulled away late.
Yeah, and that was something they didn't do last year. I think it was like all 4 of their games were decided by 2 possessions, which is fascinating, given how good last year's team was, 60-win team in Brooklyn, who finished at the bottom of the Eastern Conference. But they've always played them tough, and I think that's a credit to Jordi Fernandez, the head coach over there.
A lot of the names that you mentioned already, whether it's Hauser to a degree, obviously Walsh, Minot, kind of Simons, Shireman, Ugo, I mean, any of these dudes, to me, even if Jason Tatum, the whole if and when he does return, you're still not deep enough, more than likely, to be a contender, even in this wide open Eastern Conference, which it is, although look at what Detroit's doing, and it's pretty damn impressive. But the most important thing for this team here throughout this season ultimately is going to be who's part of your plan long term to get you to banner 19. So who of these younger, more inexperienced, cheaper guys do you think is sticking around next season that is going to be not just on the roster, not just on payroll, but a real rotational player?
I think Neemias Queta's earned his spot, at least so far. And maybe not as a starter, but as somebody that can come off the bench and be your second big when Jason Tatum's back and you're contending again. I think he's certainly one. And right now it's kind of a competition between Jordan Walsh and Josh Minot, because I'm interested to see what they do with the wings, because they have a ton of them, like Baylor Shireman, Ugo Gonzalez, obviously Minot and Walsh. Like, who carves out a role and who actually is able to contribute to the next iteration of the team? Because obviously Jaylen Brown and Jason Tatum are both wings. Sam Hauser as well, who's going to play. And the lineups with Hauser and Tatum are one of the most effective in the league. So he's kind of had his spot. And, you want that shooting out there with Jason Tatum. So it's going to come down to one of Walsh or Minot, I think. And Shireman's going to have his chance too. But they're just so congested at the wing where it's kind of tough to decipher who it's going to be. So that's far from decided. I think right now the only clear-cut one is Queta.
Outside of, obviously the wing position being a little oversaturated, is there more pressure on Walsh this year? Because I was hearing a lot of rumblings when Summer League took place, and it was just kind of like he needs to stand out. There's no if, and, or but or any other option here, and it's just kind of been waiting for that full pop to come from him. So was this a high-pressure season?
No doubt. I really don't think it's crazy to say this was make or break for him.
Okay.
I mean, this is year 3. He hadn't really broken through yet, and part of that's because of the team he was on. Like, you're sitting behind guys like Porzingis and Holiday. Like, we know how deep this team was, and Walsh is still only 21. He's played less than 75 games in his career. So I think, people looked at him and it's like, all right, when's he going to break through? He's been on the team now 3 years. Like, when's it going to happen? And he's finally getting the opportunity, and he's showing why they drafted him. Like, the defense is incredible. And I know Harden had almost 40 points the other night, and it's weird that you're talking about the primary defender when a guy plays like that, but Walsh made it difficult on him all afternoon. And same thing with Tyrese Maxey, the game that they lost in Philly. He had 3 straight stops down the fourth quarter, the final stretch, the final minute of the game. So, his defense is what they need him to be, and he's done a great job with that. The rebounding as well. I mean, since playing 20 minutes for the first time against Washington, he's been among the top in rebounds, blocks, steals. Like, that's what he needs to do. They don't need him to score. That's the reality. Of course, the scoring's going to need to be better. They need him to knock down those open corner threes, which he's shown he can. But for now, he's doing what they drafted him to do, is to impact the game, just mess it up, and make those hustle plays.
Yeah, I think the 21-year-old part of it is gigantic. We feel like he's older because we've seen him for a little while, but honestly, there are some guys that enter the NBA at obviously older than 21, and so he's already got 3 years under his belt, or at least he's on the way to having that over the course of this year. Justin, we've only got about another minute, but what are you looking to see, whether that's specifically in this back half of the home and home against the Nets coming up here, or just in games to come as this team continues to find its way?
I just want to see guys continue to develop. Like you said, the number one thing right now, the number one move the Celtics are going to make in the future is getting Jason Tatum back. So who is going to fit the mold when Jason Tatum comes back? I think that's been the number one goal this season. Like, who stands out? And that's kind of what I'm watching, just who continues to develop, who really carves out, who wins the minutes for that wing role. Like, does anyone carve out a consistent starting role? Like, again, like I said, I'm not even sure Walsh starts again tonight. Like, who's it going to be? So I'd like to just see who continues to develop, and I want to see them just be competitive, because they have all the makings to do it. And I really haven't wavered from the fact that I think they'll be a little bit over 500, right around there. And obviously injuries can change that quickly, but as long as they're healthy, I think that's where they'll fit in. So I guess the number one key to that is development and kind of watching what happens with that.
I wasn't here for your first sit down with these guys, but do we see Jason Tatum this season, yes or no?
I think we do. And I think that's a great
with
thing.
It?
Tonight.
No, he would love to do it.
On the bench in street clothes.
Yeah. He has been there. He's been traveling as well. But
yeah. Well, he I don't want to call it mascot energy, but there's some guys that need to still be around in a full capacity, whether they're suiting up or not.
Well,
That's not the word.
a lot of the guys have talked up his importance of being around.
Yeah, his jersey went up right after the injury in the locker room, and I was like, holy crap, this would get me fired up. So.
Yeah, no, without a doubt.
they still set up his locker.
They
on
do?
the road. Yeah, he still has his nameplate and everything there. Yeah, he still has his locker on the road. Yeah.
That would drive me crazy on the equipment staff, though. The training set, oh my God, he's not even using this stuff.
The things that we learn about Kaufman. You still have to wash the jersey, okay?
No, you don't have to wash it. He's not wearing it. It's just hung up.
Could be superstitious.
Real quick, before we do break, I keep saying one more. Debonsa, who obviously is off to a handful of games at BYU, the local kid, Brockton kid, played here recently at the Garden against UConn. Thriller of a game, had a career night. He was awesome. Everyone's excited, fantasizing about what he is going to be in the NBA, dreaming that it is in green. I don't think that's going to happen.
I don't either.
But ultimately, what type of pro do you think he is shaping up to be?
I mean, I think people are going to be talking about him the way they were talking about Cooper Flagg last year.
Wow.
And part of that could be because of the local hype. Like,
Sure.
Obviously, he's even closer than Cooper Flagg was. And people even, like, in this region were like, oh, Cooper Flagg, he's from Maine. Like, he wasn't
Right.
from here.
He's
People
one
were,
of ours,
claiming
New
him as
England.
us. Like, that
Yeah.
wasn't reality. But, I mean, the local hype is definitely going to be there. But, like, there's really no weakness for him on the floor. Like, he's got great size. He can shoot. He can defend. So he's going to be a really good player.
Wow, I'm excited. Justin Turpin from WEEI. Everyone, make sure you call in and let us know your thoughts on the Celtics season. And were you originally Team Tank? Have you changed your mind? 617-790-0928. On the other side, we break down all things going on with the Holy Cross football program. Hearing from Cam Nolan here on Boston is Under the Chat, which you can catch Monday through Friday right here on Nesson at 8 a.m. and from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. over on Nesson Nation.